Hello and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. I'm Stephen Cabral, board-certified naturopathic doctor. Excited to have you here today on our first host call of the weekend, where we're going to get into our community's questions. Of course, we're going to be talking about wellness, we're going to be talking about weight loss, and we'll be chatting about anti-aging, but we're going to be doing that from a symptom-based perspective. So what people do is they write in at stephencabral.com/askcabral, and they ask their questions. And those questions are typically in the form of symptoms. For example, in this first question we have coming up, the person does not know what's wrong with them. Their blood work's okay, but they don't feel optimal. So they have a coating on their tongue, their anxiety, all these different things. So what you're going to get to see is over the course of, let's say, 6 or 7 or 8 questions today are different symptoms that people are coming in with. But what I'm looking to do, and what I do exactly in my practice the same exact way, is say, okay, but why? Why do you have this symptom? And then we try to peel back the onion layer by layer by layer until we get to the core. And when we're at the core, we can understand some of the root causes that are holding people back from living their best life ever. So that's really, and I know it's oversimplified, but that's what we have to do. There is not a possibility of getting well until you go deep, until you really figure out what is the core reason or reasons, because there can be multiple, that I'm not optimal, that I'm not feeling my best, or that I have the dis-ease that conventional medicine named. Meaning like you have the Hashimoto's, you have the rheumatoid arthritis, you have the sarcoidosis, you have the psoriasis, the eczema, the type 2 diabetes, whatever it might be, or cancer. Now you're given a diagnosis, but that diagnosis never treats an underlying root cause. So sure, maybe you feel better now that you've been lumped into one group of people that have this specific name of a disease, and you might enter that type of a support group or whatever it might be, or given that particular drug, but at no point is that ever addressing how you get well. Because the best that anyone could do in conventional medicine, and it's not the doctor's fault, but the best that they can do is what they've been taught. And that's if you come in with this particular dis-ease of the body, this particular name of a disease that you've been given showing up on your blood work, well, then we're going to give you this pharmaceutical drug. And what that pharmaceutical drug is, it's going to do its best to mask your symptoms. Because if we can mask your symptoms, then you believe, at least temporarily, that you're better. And that's not the case, but because we know 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, something else goes wrong. And that's because at an underlying root cause, there is something truly wrong with the body. And one manifestation was the disease name that you were given. But the truth is that that's just one name. There are other names, there are other things that can go wrong with the body when inflammation is at play, when hormones are at play, when neurotransmitters are at play. So we have to look at all of these things, and that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so with that introduction, let's get into this first question. It's from Sarah. Sarah's writing in, hello, I'm wondering if you can help me point me in the right direction. I've been not diagnosed with any health issues, but I know my body's not supposed to function the way it does. I've had insomnia for the past 14 years. It goes up and down. I often wake throughout the night and literally don't remember when I slept that night. Falling asleep creates anxiety and it affects my partner too. I've had constipation. Currently, I'm 32. Constantly bloated no matter how clean I eat. I have a thick coating on my tongue. I eat pretty well though, but don't do well with gluten or dairy. I'm a natural worrier. I have a lot of stress. There may be a link between what's going on inside that I can't see. My main issues are digestion issues and insomnia. I don't have anything else major going on, but they are major to me. I don't think my body is absorbing any nutrients and I eat relatively clean. And I do get unhealthy cravings for carbs, chocolate, or sweets. I know this is a bit of a mishmash, but just trying to give as much as possible. If you have any tips, ideas, suggestions, please let me know. I just want to sleep well and have my digestion working optimally, particularly for when I start a family. Okay, Sarah, these aren't going to be tips. These aren't going to be suggestions. This is literally, I see this at least twice a week in my practice, like minimum twice a week in my practice. 2 different people come in, they have these particular symptoms. This is not normal, but this is very common, okay? So what we have is a lot of things going on, and there's a lot that we need to fix. And you said, yes, you're insomnia, yes, you're digestion, but the truth is that you call yourself a natural worrier. There's nothing natural about worrying. It's not natural, okay? Fear is essentially this presents itself as anxiety. We're worried about what the future may hold. Maybe like we don't see ourselves getting well, or we don't like the job we're in, or we don't, the relationships, the family, whatever it might be. But we need to work on that from obviously a psychological standpoint, and I do recommend tuning into my Mindset and Motivation Mondays. But the other part is that we need to figure out why the anxiety is there. Now, it can be a mineral imbalance for sure. It can be neurotransmitter-based issues. It can be because of your digestive issues that's causing some vagus nerve stimulation, which is basically this low-level anxiety because your body is not right. It's not healthy. There's something going on with the gut. And it seems like you have this underlying either bacterial overgrowth or candida overgrowth, or most likely both. Now, the very interesting thing for you is you can pretty much take care of all of these with one lab test. You can run an organic acids test that would look at neurotransmitters in terms of their waste from serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, so that we would look at that. You would look at candida overgrowth. You have a thick coating on your tongue, and you crave carbs. So that's kind of a giveaway there as well. We want to make sure your blood sugar is stabilized. So on the organic acids test, you would actually look at ketone and fatty acid-based production. You would look at B vitamins because you could possibly be low in B vitamins. So, the organic acids test is, I have two favorite tests, for everyone. Like, meaning that if you only ran two tests, I'd recommend the hair tissue mineral analysis and the organic acids test because it's so enlightening. The hair tissue mineral analysis is not just about the amount of minerals in your body, although it does look at that. It looks at heavy metals, and it also looks at the autonomic nervous system. So I get to see how stressed or not stressed a person is, whether they believe it or not. It shows calcium output, magnesium output. So it shows how the body is balancing itself. So I'm also recommending the hair tissue mineral analysis for you as well. Again, you could run an adrenal-based test, but my opinion would be the organic acids test and the hair tissue mineral analysis test. And then if I could pick a third, the third would probably be a food sensitivity test for you, because I bet there's a lot of healthy foods. Healthy foods, you say you eat at Whole Foods. Well, believe me, there are healthy foods out there that can cause inflammation, anxiety, things like that. And we look at those on the food sensitivity test that we run. So that's where I would get started. And then once we get those lab tests in, I personally read your labs. Like legitimately, every lab that is run through StephenCabral.com, I read them. I read them over, and then I do 2 coaching calls or sit-downs with my holistic health coaches that I personally certify, that I work with. So I work with them on a weekly basis, twice a week. We sit down with all the labs that come in for the calls that week. And I say, this is my recommendation for this person, this is my recommendation for this person. And then they take you through a 30-minute call. And if you do 2 labs, meaning like if you ran a hair tissue mineral analysis and you ran an organic acids test and maybe you ran a food sensitivity test, you actually get upgraded from a 30-minute call, which is for one lab, to a 60-minute call. So you get an hour with the health coach and they go through all sorts of different suggestions for you based on your story. They'll take your intake. And they're also going to then give you a bunch of bonus reports based on whatever that you might need, meaning like we have a great meal planner, we've got a progress tracking chart, we have tips for constipation, so you wrote about that. Constipation we can take care of pretty much right away. We've got a great constipation protocol, and we've got a great report on that as well. Plus, I've talked about constipation many, many times in the Cabral concept. So you can simply go to StephenCabral.com/podcasts and type in constipation in the search bar, and you'll find a bunch of shows on that. So that's it for that question. Sarah, I hope that helps. I will absolutely be able to help you. I'm sure of that because these things are not difficult to fix, but you do need to figure out what's going on with your body. For all full questions today, if I ad-lib some of them, and for all answers, for all links to all labs, everything today, just go to StephenCabral.com/673. That's where everything will be today. Okay, Stephanie's up next. My question is about root canals. I had one done a year ago after seeing my holistic dentist who thought I should have the procedure done and have second-guessed my decision, wondering if I should have had the tooth pulled instead. I'm now considering having it removed and have a removable denture put in. Do you think most people would be better off having the root canal removed than leaving it in the mouth and risking disease? Thank you so much for answering your question. So Stephanie, this is interesting because I actually just answered this question last week about abscesses and bacteria growing underneath the tooth. I'm going to find that for you right now so you can link back. You probably already heard that show, right? So if you're listening to the Cabral Concept, you know that each week we answer all these questions as well. But last week on episode 660, so episode 660, that's where it was. I talked about what people are doing right now from a holistic dental standpoint, a biological dental standpoint, to get rid of this bacteria. I'd probably do recommend that. What you just said is, I don't see good long-term results from people doing root canals and all of this dental work by putting fillers into the mouth. And the reason is that a lot of times whatever we're using to build up that gum or build up or fill in the roots is what happens is if there's any space that's left, bacteria is allowed to build up under it. And when the bacteria builds up under it, that bacteria actually has a direct outlet into the bloodstream. So what we see it causing is cardiovascular-based issues and other issues and inflammatory issues in general because the gum is literally harboring bacteria. So what I recommended on that previous show is a lot of biological dentists, and my biological dentist is using ozone injections to actually kill the bacteria. But then the question is, does the bacteria grow back? And do you have to keep doing ozone shots, once a year or every 2 years? So it's interesting to look at. And, I haven't, luckily for myself, I haven't had to have a root canal. If I have to have one in the future, I will probably do, just like you talked about, is the denture-based removable denture in the back, where you're usually having the root canals on the big molars in the back of your mouth. And the reason I say that is so that you're able to then clean under it and make sure that no bacteria grows. So hopefully that answers your question. I mean, I've studied biological dentistry quite a bit, but I'm not a biological dentist. I would get probably multiple recommendations on this, do a little bit more research. But this is a question that comes up quite a bit in my practice. I have a biological dentist myself. She is one of the best in the world. She has the highest level of certification. She did my mercury amalgam removals, like literally did the rubber dam in the mouth, did everything, like knows this inside and out. And so I rely on her for a lot of that information. She's an expert. I'm going to have her on a show. Why don't I do that as well? In 2018, I'm going to be having a lot of guest experts on my Cabral concept. Probably 2 a month, I would say. I'm going to have a lot of literally the best of the best. Not just, this person has this product to recommend, so I'm going to have them on my show. No, not at all. That will never happen. Not on the Cabral concept. We're going to have the best of the best. So I'm going to get on the best biological dentist, the best person at this, and this. So I'm excited about that because it's also going to be about a 30-minute show or so, maybe 40 minutes max. And that is going to be a time for me to ask a lot of the questions that our Cabral concept community may write in with, but a lot that I want to learn about as well. So again, really looking forward to that. Hopefully my answer helps on what I would personally do. Jill is up next. She's asking, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm a 38-year-old female and an endomorph. A good friend of mine tuned me onto your podcast several months ago, and I listen every morning. I appreciate your heart to share the knowledge you have and see people get well. I've been on my own health journey for the past 7 years. In 2008, I lost 30 pounds. In 2010, started having massive brain fog. I've had digestive issues. Through a naturopath, I found out I'm allergic to gluten and casein. I cut both out of my diet, and in 2012, lost another 20 pounds through calorie counting and working out 5 to 6 days a week. A lot of cardio, though, hour and a half cardio, and was finally at my healthiest weight, still at the high end of my BMI. At the time, it felt like in order to maintain the weight, I would have to count every calorie and work out 6 days a week for the rest of my life. Overall, feel significantly better than I did in 2010, but still deal with brain fog, fatigue, difficulty finding words, mucus, digestion, depression, trouble losing weight. 2013, I gained 10 pounds back, and it's still there. In 2016, gained 20 pounds back out of nowhere. Could identify the cause. I could easily sleep 10 to 11 hours a night, even on some days. Okay, so we've got a lot going on here. Bone broth, lost 20 pounds. Okay, let's see what the questions are. And again, everybody can read the full questions at stephencabral.com/673. Do you have any thoughts on why my body thrives on liquid but struggles with food? Do you have any recommendations what I can help to help my body thrive? How do I best break down foods instead of just doing juicing? All right. So, okay, let's get into this. We have a couple things going on. So this is when I go back to why someone can't lose weight, especially the endomorph, because I've studied the body types in depth. It's my favorite thing. It really is in the world. I know I don't talk about it a lot on the Cabral concept. People ask me to talk about it more. I will. I absolutely will. But when I do things, I go at it full force. That's the thing. So when I start teaching people about body types, I'm going to really teach people about body types, in my opinion, like it's never done before. Because, and why do I say like it's never done before? Because of course it was taught to me, right? Like I didn't make this up. And I'm going to do it in a way that I feel is very approachable, that people can then take action steps forward. Because when you study Ayurveda, you really have no idea what they're talking about unless you just go deep and deep and deep on it. It took me really a couple years to say, what are they talking about in terms of these body types? Sure, I can recognize a body type, but what do you do about that? Okay, so with the endomorph body type, here's what we need to do. Immediately, I need to know your hormone panel with thyroid. So I need you to run a thyroid plus adrenal plus hormone. It's one lab, all right? It's just one lab. It gets sent to you in the mail. It's just a little blood poke of the finger. So all you do is just do a little lancet on the finger, take some blood drops. That's going to allow me to figure out what's going on with your thyroid. If your thyroid is sluggish, I'm going to help you with that. If your adrenals, meaning your cortisol output is sluggish, which a lot of times it is with the endomorph as well, I'm going to help you with that. If you have estrogen dominance, which you very well may at, I believe you're 38 years old, and you have low progesterone, we'll help you with that. Okay? I also want to make sure your testosterone's where it should be and DHEA. We're going to look at that. But also on that lab test, it will look for TPO antibodies to see if there's any autoimmune-based reaction going on with the thyroid. Okay. It's also going to look at your blood sugar because I want to make sure what's going on with your blood sugar. I want to make sure that you're tapping into body fat and not into sugar all the time. Like I want to make sure your sugar is pulled into your cells and then you're actually able to oxidize body fat. And then I want to look at your vitamin D levels. That will give me all of those things. Those things, if they're not balanced, you will always struggle to lose weight. You literally will always struggle to lose weight. Okay, the second thing is, why can't you digest whole foods? Okay, so now we're going to run an organic acids test. Those are the two labs for you. Thyroid plus adrenal plus hormone, and then the organic acids test. The organic acids test is going to show me what's going on with your digestive system from an overgrowth standpoint, from a vitamin-based standpoint, from a fatty acid ketone-based standpoint. I want to make sure you're not in ketosis, and then I want to make sure as well that the dopamine levels are, norepinephrine levels are where they should be as well. So I'm going to look at that with that. I'm going to give you your answer. Again, this is a very long question, and I'm happy to help. The best way I can help you is that if you run those two labs, I personally will read over your labs. I will give the recommendations to my health coach, and if you run both of those separate labs, you'll actually get an hour call with them. You'll get a plan that's built for you, and then you won't have to exercise 90 minutes a day for 6 days a week and count all your calories. So hopefully that helps. If labs are out of reach right now, well, then I recommend the 21-day Dr. Ball detox to get started. Even if you run the labs 3 weeks before your health coaching call with one of my holistic health coaches, you could abut that with the 21-day Dr. Ball detox as well to get the body clean, to literally start to filter out all of those toxins and then start fresh when you get your plan. Okay, Kara is up next. Kara's asking, hi, Dr. Ball. As always, thank you for your work. I share your name to everyone. My daughter just had her 2-year checkup at Children's Hospital. She went directly to about 2 hours after her birth. She was born early and suffered tremendous blood loss and was a whole body cooled baby. Hypothermia, treatment for 72 hours. Now she is perfect. She was either at 24 months and beyond for her development and at her assessment today. However, the same dietitian who ran me the wrong way at her 10-month high-risk infant follow-up appointment, giving me a hard time for choosing not to give her iron-enriched baby cereals, was back at it again with dairy. I do not give her dairy. If when I do give her raw dairy, but we're not there yet. The dietitian was saying how I need to keep an eye on her calcium. She said we can get calcium from dark leafy greens, but how we need to consume 10 times the amount of greens as dairy to get the same amount. I know she's not correct, but I chose to get through the appointment and save her my argument. Last time, my daughter's iron got low, 9.6. We focused on beef, liver, chicken, molasses, combined with a homeopathic remedy and camu and broccoli and such, and raised it to 11.6 in 3 months. I swear she rolled her eyes in her head, but all right. So I'm going to go through this because I know exactly how I want to answer this. And your daughter's 21 pounds, 2 years old. She rarely eats broccoli for her greens, and sometimes we chop up spinach and scrambled egg. She's a meat and sweet potatoes girl. What do I need to be giving her to keep up her calcium? Should I be concerned with lower weight? Okay. So here's the deal. The dietitians are in the same category as medical doctors. They can be absolutely phenomenal if they do more continuing education when they get out of medical school or college. But the problem is most MDs and dietitians just stop. That's it. Whatever knowledge they accumulate, it ends in medical school. So essentially there's 28 years old or so, 26, whatever it might be, usually around 28 when they can actually start practicing, a little older if there's a specific specialty. Okay, so here's the deal. So now for the rest of their life, they only get their information from pharmaceutical-based and American Medical Association journals, which is crazy. So this dietitian clearly has not kept up with the times, clearly is only listening to research that is actually paid for by the dairy industry. To say that you need dairy from cows, which are sick and diseased in the first place, that it can only promote more omega-3s in your child, create more inflammation, more mucus production, more ear, nose, and throat-based infections and sinus infections and all of these things, and wonder why we have all these issues. Well, she obviously doesn't know what she's talking about, and since I'm not naming her name, I feel very comfortable in saying that she literally has no idea what she's talking about in terms of good, healthy nutrition. Now, she might know the nutrients that your daughter needs. Sure, I'll give her that, but not in terms of keeping people healthy, because remember, the American medical system is not set up for keeping people healthy. it keeps them sick and medicated, and that's just the way it is. It's a form of sick care, not health care. The only health care you really get is by visiting a natural health practitioner who's able to say, yes, based on your current situation, here's what I recommend. And based on your situation here, and your daughter's perfectly healthy, she has a little low iron, what do? Do we start pumping her full of cows that are fed corn and soy and all sorts of grain and Skittles and things like that, and antibiotics and estrogen and IGF-1, which is an insulin growth hormone? Do we give that, which is then passed on into the milk, and then we give that to your child? No, we don't do that. That makes zero sense. So what we do is we give other foods that are high in calcium, and you're currently doing that. Now, if you're not vegan and you're doing some chicken liver or some type of liver like that and just mashed up in her food, well, that's going to have more iron than anything else in the world. So you could do that, of course. Now, a lot of kids, 2 years old, they're not going to eat a lot of greens, and their palate has not even really adjusted to that bitter taste. So what we can do is we can put those, though, in a smoothie. So you could use something like the daily fruit and vegetable blend that we have in a powdered form and put that in a smoothie. Or you could blend up your spinach like you're currently doing right now, or collards, or any other dark greens, pumpkin seeds. You could start to do pumpkin seed butter. So there are other nuts that are high in iron as well. That's also high in zinc. Well, they also do, you could do even a liquid vitamin iron-based supplement if you would like. There are whole food liquid iron-based supplements. Let me see if I can link that one up today, okay? So, Kara, that's what I'm going to try to do for you, is link up a liquid iron-based one. But I have easier food-based ones as well, meaning, okay, here's what else we can do. So, besides the liver like we spoke about, besides the dark greens, besides maybe some of like the pumpkin seed butters, things like that I've spoken about on the past, is that almond milk or certain nut milks, almond milk specifically, has at least a third more calcium than cow's milk. So if you're really concerned about calcium, dietitians out there, and we know that dairy is the number one food sensitivity. I've run as many food sensitivity tests as I can think of in a private practice. I've run probably 1,000, okay? Dairy is the number one human food sensitivity, and it's from cows. Goats and sheep's milk is far, far less. So if you want to make an argument for some raw goat's milk, raw sheep's milk, or turn them into a cheese, whatever you want, or yogurt or kefir, make that argument. I'm happy to have that argument. Like, you can make that, and you can make a real case for it, but you can't make a case for cows. You just can't. It's not going to happen. And it's because the data says no. Now, if you say raw cow's milk, well, different story, but really hard to find good quality raw cow's milk where it's coming from a farm that's grass green fed, that aren't using antibiotics, where the cows are kept clean, all of those things. It's difficult. So almond milk, if your child does not have a food sensitivity to lectins or to nuts, almonds, of course, well, then this could be a really easy substitute to get more calcium into the diet. Iron, not going to, but calcium, yes. So hopefully that helps. I want to get one more question in today. So Jen's up next. Is carbonated water and seltzer water somehow unhealthy? I love drinking flavored, I don't know how to pronounce that. I should know how to pronounce this. La Croix or La Croix or polar seltzers, and probably drink a 12-ounce can 1 to 2 times daily when I have them on hand. I really enjoy it, and it's a nice treat when I'm tired of drinking water and herbal tea. I'm familiar with how, Ayurvedically speaking, carbonation can increase vata. Are there any other health concerns to drink carbonated waters? Of course, consuming, it's not my only water intake. So that's the big thing, Jen, is exactly correct, that it's not your only water source. So, on a daily basis, if someone's having one, so I'm going to go with 1 12-ounce can or one water for you, then I think that would be acceptable. Here's, though, where I don't love. So a lot of times we're getting this water, which is on the more acidic-based side of it. Now, I could talk about carbonated water for quite some time. I'm just going to give you the overview, okay? You can go deep on this. You can look into it. There's going to be a lot of sides to this. But here's the thing. You can get carbonated water like Pellegrino or a lot of the European brands that come in a glass bottle, and they're high in minerals. That's actually what I do recommend, rather than the canned varieties that oftentimes are just regular water that have been filtered, that might still contain heavy metals, or that might be on the acidic side. When you get a Pellegrino, when you get some of the other ones that I can barely pronounce in the first place, like the German brands and those that are great, they're loaded with minerals, which I love, because your body needs minerals to actually even use the water, to soak up the water. The water has to have a charge. That's what a lot of people don't talk about, meaning like even if you use these wild filters that do all these different things, water has to have a charge, which means if you do reverse osmosis, you have to add back in the trace minerals. Again, it has to have energy. And even better, if you stir the water and bring in the minerals that way and put in your drops of minerals, that's going to add charge back to the water. Water has to be living. Water is a living thing. We put it into our body, and then our body says, oh, living water. Our body's made of 2/3 of this. We need this, and we soak it up. And so that's really, really important. So the brands you named, I have no problem with them every once in a while. But if you're going to drink carbonated water, you're going to enjoy it. What I recommend is, okay, if you do the brands that you named, do a squeeze of lime and a pinch of sea salt. Okay, so pour it out into a cup or a glass, pinch of sea salt, squeeze of lime, as much lime as you want. Now, we just added it back in natural minerals. That will help tremendously. So that will bring the pH of the water back up. That will add the minerals back in. By the way, pH and minerals is almost synonymous with each other. So if you have a lot of minerals in water, you're going to have a higher pH. If you don't have minerals in water, it's going to be more acidic. What is the acid alkaline things? Again, people like to argue over this. Usually they're arguing over it with not enough information. What it means is this: acidic water, whether you believe it hurts the body or not, here's the deal. Your body then has to use its own minerals to be able to absorb and utilize that water in the first place, or it's just going to move out of your system. You're not going to be able to absorb it. So hopefully that answers your question. Choose whatever brand that you like. Add a pinch of sea salt, Himalayan sea salt, or rock salt, or Celtic sea salt, or real salt, Redmond's real salt. And then the squeeze of lime. That helps balance it. Potassium with the lime, sodium with the sea salt, although it has all the trace minerals, and you're going to be good to go. What's the last part I want to leave you with? You're absolutely correct in saying that it increases vata. It increases air, oxygen, carbon dioxide, right? In this case. So the carbonation can create more lightness, let's say, in the vata. So it could cause more of those vata-based dysfunctions. Mainly what we're talking about here is it can cause bloating in some people, it can cause gas in some people, and it can also, so two things here, okay? One is if you're someone that's prone to a lot of bloating, well, it can hurt your digestion. But then those people, believe it or not, some people, like for myself, if I have not a big glass, but like a normal glass, let's say 8 ounces or so, squeeze a lime, pinch of sea salt, and it's Pellegrino water, something like that. If I go out to dinner and I just have that, again, they might not have sea salt, so I'll just squeeze lime in it and I have Pellegrino. And that, again, allows me not to have to drink alcohol if I choose not to. That actually helps improve my digestion. Why? Well, in Ayurvedic terms, if your stomach is full of food, it's also supposed to have some space. So in Ayurvedic, it's basically half food, a quarter water, and a quarter air. So, and this is going to get complicated, so I don't want to get too deep into it. I'll do Ayurvedic digestion in the future. But half your stomach is filled with food. The other quarter is left for fluid, which helps to then break down and works with the mucosa of the stomach, because the mucosa lining has to help with the digestion. And then the air means space. So the space then is allowing for there to be room for this digestion to take place. So if you're going out to dinner and you have a nice little meal, then that carbonation actually can create some of that space along with the water. So again, without getting too crazy into Ayurvedic digestion, I do hope that answers your question. Really great question, Jen. That one has not come up before. So appreciate it. Appreciate everyone's questions today. Appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much, as always, for sharing this show. I mean, honestly, the feedback that I get means so much to me. And just watching the podcast grow is more than I could ever thank you for. So really do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And I can't wait to share with you tomorrow's show, where we answer more of our community questions on our second Cabral HouseCall of the weekend. As always, thank you again for tuning into the Cabral Concept. This past year has been amazing in terms of watching our community grow and accomplish so much. And each month, I try to do my best to share with you something I believe would help take your health and wellness to the next level. This month, I want to do something I've never done before, and that's offer our very first sale at StephenCabral.com. You may not know this, but the holiday season is my favorite time of the year. Not only do I love being able to spend more time with friends and family, but it also means we're closing out one year and getting ready to start fresh in a new one. That's why I want you to be able to give the gift of health and wellness to those you love, and also pick up anything you need in order to have your very best 2018. So for the month of December 2017, I'm going to be offering 10% off all nutritional supplements and functional medicine lab testing site-wide. To take advantage of our special holiday offer and limited quantities, simply go to StephenCabral.com/store and use the coupon code HOLIDAY. Thank you again for your support of the Cabral Concept, and happy holidays to you and your family.